Decided to do an Inside the Lords this week, even though there's not much happening inside the Lords because Parliament has obviously been suspended for the election period. But I wanted to talk about a few different issues that are still relevant to parliamentary work. First of all, there was a discussion at the beginning of this week about a Labour policy proposal, that they're going to reform the House of Lords, and this is actually a compromise on their abolishing the House of Lords, their original proposal. And people will know that I'm all for getting rid of an unelected second chamber, even though I'm in it. But their compromise of reform was to say that they're going to force anybody in the House of Lords who's over 80 from sitting as a member of the peers. And I just thought this was the typical of today's politics and of what this election is like. A half-hearted fudge, as it happens, that plays a very dangerous generational game. And I just wanted to say, not because it will affect me, because I'll be long dead, I'm sure, by the time I get to that age, but the truth of the matter is the most interesting, most independent, most articulate people that I've met in the House of Lords have all been over 80. And that's from all parties. And I just thought when I heard it that it summed up something of the half-hearted nature of today's politics. I'm actually recording this on the day that the Conservative Party manifestos come out. And to use another example, they have suggested that they really don't like the European Court of Human Rights interfering in UK affairs. So they put them on warning that they're going to ignore them more, but they won't say they'll leave the human rights, what they call a foreign court, but international law will still be there threatening UK law. But it's just that kind of half-hearted, we'll say something about this law, that might get us a few votes, but we haven't got the courage to go much further. And my reflections on the election at the moment are that although we know that the Conservative Party have completely made a mess of this, I mean, they've made a mess of the 14 years in rule. We've discussed it in the Academy of Ideas podcast, and I won't repeat that, and we're going to be doing more podcasts before the end of the election campaign. In terms of being a parliamentarian, you just feel as though when the Labour Party have that massive victory, that they actually have got absolutely nothing to enthuse or inspire the electorate with. And as somebody who's going to be making some of the laws that they're putting forward, my heart just sinks. The other thing that I wanted to note, and I think this is important, is that there's a couple of outstanding pieces of legislation that didn't get sorted out before the election was called. One of those is in relation to debanking, in which the Free Speech Union in particular had really created quite a fuss about the debanking proposals, the idea that banks could close down your accounts for political reasons, and had forced the government to bring in certain regulations that would clarify and protect individual consumers, people who are banking, from such political interference. And now it's been discovered that those regulations didn't go through before Parliament was suspended. And so as a consequence, the FSU has got a petition, which I'll post below, which you should sign. It's also come to our attention that quite a number of academic leaders, people who run universities, have decided that the election is a great opportunity to do what they can to ensure that the Higher Education Free Speech Act, which you'll know there was a huge amount of fuss to get through in the first place, and it's not a perfect piece of legislation, but it was something, that those academic leaders, people who run universities in this country, are rubbing their hands with glee that the regulations have not been implemented. They're due to be implemented on the 1st of August. As a consequence of the election being called, these leaders are urging a postponement, and we know that that postponement, kicking it down the road, is very dangerous. And I also know that a lot of the Labour peers certainly were arguing against that legislation. And so a number of academics have got together and signed a letter and are campaigning, calling on all parties to guarantee whoever's elected that they will make a promise that they will see through on academic freedom. And that promise on academic freedom is important because I don't know if you've been following this, but this week there's been a terrible instance of the Durham University Union had organised a discussion and panel debate on matters relating to the Middle East, peace in relation to Israel and Gaza, and that was eventually called off by the university, not by the union, but by the university, who said they did so because the police couldn't guarantee anyone's safety. And I think that it's a real indictment of Durham University that they allowed that to happen. And of course it was their EDI, their Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Managing Director who was responsible for that. And just to say a word in support of the Durham Union and the students, they didn't want that to happen. They'd organised the debate. They had a great lineup of speakers. All the speakers were there ready to debate. There was an audience who wanted to hear them. The flash mob of people using the heckler's veto might have called it off, but that deprived Durham universities of hearing two sides of an argument, important sides. And Durham Union are actually hosting another big debate, a series of debates, in fact, this week on Thursday, organised by Debating Matters for sixth formers. And I think it's to their credit that they have not been intimidated from calling off all of the rest of their programme. And I'm looking forward to going and joining them for the final debate on cancel culture, guess what? Where I'll be looking forward to hearing students, pupils from the North East arguing for and against cancel culture and all sides of that argument. The final thing that I just wanted to stress today is that although Parliament has been suspended, politics has carried on. And one of the dispiriting sides of politics, and one of the things that gives me pause for thought, and I'm thinking about this because I'm just with colleagues programming this year's Battle of Ideas Festival. And by the way, have you got your early bird ticket yet? Well, if not, then get it. But we're trying to work out the balance in relation to things like the right to protest, the right to free speech, whether you should draw lines. And two things have given me real sort of pause for concern in the last couple of days, or well, in fact today. One is that Nigel Farage driving around in an open top bus was attacked today. Apparently stones were thrown at him. There's now some argument that something else was thrown at him, it was cups or whatever. But the thing was, it was viciously done by somebody who were tackled actually by local workmen, which was good to see, and eventually that person was arrested by the police. And other people have said, well, this is the right to protest. Nigel Farage should not be going on an open top bus. It's disgusting to have somebody like him here sowing hate and so on. And then the response to this is what? To attack him. And I do think that then, of course, people like me who want the right to protest think, ooh, that's a bit difficult. Which shows you these things have got some moral dilemmas to them. And at the same time, a portrait of King Charles has been defaced, attacked by people from Animal Rising. I mean, God, I can't keep up with these different groups, but anyway, Animal Rising. I don't care about the monarchy. I thought the portrait was quite good, or not quite good, that's neither here nor there. But the Philistinism, the iconoclasm, the idea that you can just treat art, art is an expression of human achievement, the best of what it means to be human, and that you can just glibly deface it, as we saw in Cambridge University, where the portrait of Balfour was slashed and nobody has been held to account, makes me want to go along and say, arrest those people. Again, a real moral dilemma. Is that just the right to protest? And these are the kind of things we will be, in fact, discussing at the Battle of Ideas. But one of the things that is clear to me is that even though Parliament's been suspended, and I'm worried about a couple of those laws, as I mentioned, that won't go through, one is looking at what are drab manifestos, thinking, oh God, this is going to be the legislative programme. What you also realise is that real politics is happening outside of Parliament. And the political parties just don't represent what people are thinking about. And if you look at what's happening to mainstream parties throughout Europe, who've been given something of a trouncing in a kind of populist revolt in the European elections, it makes me realise that although I have to work very hard in the House of Lords, reading all that law and all the rest of it, that actually having a cool, hard look at what's happening outside makes me realise that what we're going to have to do is just rebuild grassroots, rank and file, intelligent movements who are able to deal with some of these difficult moral dilemmas. And the best place that you can do that is to join us at the Academy of Ideas and all the different things that we organise, because we really need to become a new community. I'm going to announce some rules and changes in the way that we present our Substack, the way we're going to be building the Academy of Ideas community, what you can do to get involved in the Battle of Ideas, not just to attend it, to become one of the team. And that's going to be coming quite soon, so watch this space. But politics should not be left to politicians. They have really in danger of taking the soul out of politics. But politics is about polis, the people. And even though mainstream parties are not living up to their obligations to represent the people, we have to ensure that that doesn't mean that we get driven out of public life, or that you get driven out of public life. It's essential you don't leave it up to Parliament, but that we start building outside of Parliament something new.